She's on mute, I think. You want me to unmute it? That's right. Not all.
Hello. Am I on? Yes. Yay. All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys, for being here, and we hope it's going good for you this weekend. It's exciting for us to get to be here with y'all, and we love it. We love it, love it. We're going to talk about developing leaders, obviously, by our title. We're not going to just talk about developing you as a leader, but we're going to be talking about you developing leaders. All right? So there's a little bit of a difference there. If you're a leader already, raise your hand. Okay. Give me in like short bursts why you want to be a leader. Why are you a leader?
To take people in a good direction.
Okay. Why are you a leader? Okay. Why are you a leader? Okay.
Natural overflow is following. If you're following Christ, then as Paul would say, follow me as I follow Christ.
Okay.
Organic thing.
Okay. What's your biggest fear in being a leader? Okay. Not being enough. What else? Your biggest fear in being a leader. You came to this class because you're curious about it, or you want to get better, or you need to know how to help others. But that means that leadership is in your psyche here. What's your biggest fear? Failure. What else?
Hindering those who are trying to help.
Hindering others. Okay. Giving the wrong direction. Pride. Okay. Okay, if you could not answer that question, which I know everyone had their answer in their head, even if you didn't say it out loud. If you could not answer that question, you shouldn't be here. Because that's probably one of the most important questions that you face as a leader. And it's when you face it that God has room to start changing you into the leader that he wants you to become. We're going to kind of split this information up into halves here. I'm going to go first, and then if there's any time left over, I'm going to let Lynn finish. So he's just standing up here to make me feel better and to look pretty. So sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. The only reason we are standing up here is because we have learned from a whole lot of mistakes. Most of the things, I'm not one of them. Most of the things that we have maybe figured out by this point, we found out through the School of Hard Knocks. And that's not to necessarily recommend that for you, but it is part of the process, because there's only one way to discover what you're made out of is to go through it and to evaluate as you go. And that's why it's okay to be scared. It's okay to admit what your fears are. We have two different leadership styles. We're opposites. Lynn is, I want to be a leader, deep end. You want to be a leader? Deep end, okay? Mine is, you must have it all together before you want to be a leader. And so I'm waiting until I get it all together to be a leader, and I'm out of time, okay? And so I have a leader that I'm developing, and I'm like, you're not quite ready. You're not quite ready, okay? And both of those are extremes, and there are humanness, okay? And so what we need to do is, like Carrie was saying, let's look at God's wisdom on what leadership should look like and what he intended for his people on how to be leaders and how to help others become leaders, because that's almost as important as you being a leader, if maybe not more, and we're going to kind of explain that. The best leader, Jesus, okay? So let's look at how he did it, okay? Let's go to our next slide. Okay, it's kind of small, but Jesus came to the earth. Okay, he came to seek and save the lost. And in his process in starting ministry, he found 12 people. He did it in a very interesting way, which we'll talk about in a minute, okay? But he found people to develop. He could have just done it all by himself. Did you ever realize that? He really didn't have to use us. But he said, nope, here's how we're doing it. Come here, you 12 knuckleheads, and let's learn this together. And truly they were, okay? I mean, the Bible is very open about their flaws and their weaknesses and their pride and and everything that was wrong with them. But Jesus saw their potential, and he didn't expect them to have that fixed in a day. He spent 3 years with them on earth, and then he taught them how to find leaders, okay? Because the next thing that happens is he sends out 72. That means that 12 people found, if they all went together, found 5 more, okay? And 72 groups of 6, right? Maybe, for 12, if each one of the apostles went with them, okay? So 72 people, each has an apostle. 12 times 6 is 72, and out they go. What do you think happens from a group of 12 to a group of 72? What happens? What's the difference? What got bigger? Discipleship got bigger? What were they doing when they went out?
Sharing the gospel.
Okay. They were telling people about this Jesus who had pulled them together, okay? So multiplication, okay? Exponential, right? So this is the way Jesus did it, okay? This isn't just like, multiplication, that's a good idea. This is the way our Lord did it. And he could have done it all by himself, but this is the way he chose, okay? The next thing that happens is that he commissions the apostles before he leaves this earth. He's leaving, okay? He's not going to walk with them anymore, okay? This is a big step here in developing leadership, is that they step out on their own. But in Acts 1:8, he says, I think a little bit before that. He says, wait for the power, okay? Wait for the power. I don't mean for you ever to do this all by yourself, okay? I mean for you to do it with power, but it's going to be my power. It's not going to be your power. So wait for that, okay? The next thing, after he commissions his apostles, is that they begin the church, okay? Acts 2:38, where Peter preaches, okay? And now he has called his church, upon this rock I will build my church. And now 2 Peter, he says, you are a chosen people. He doesn't say you are a chosen person. He says you are a chosen people, the people of God. So he's gone from Jesus to 12 apostles to 72, now to a commissioned group to have power on their own, and now we have the church, which is what we are now a part of, okay? For what reason? Why build the church? 2 Timothy 2:4. God wants everyone saved. This is the process that God put in place for everyone to be saved, okay? That is our hope. We are here. We sit here today because of what these courageous people trusted and followed through on, because their leader taught them what to do, okay? Making sense? One of the things I love the most about Jesus is that he never expects us to do anything that he hasn't done himself. He always has done it. And then he says, follow me. And he calls us to die. But he did it first. He calls his father gave up his child. If you've ever had to do something really, really hard, or you've lost a child, I've lost a child. If that's happened to you, your Heavenly Father has already been through that, and he understands what you are going through, okay? And just as in those personal things, in being a leader and in developing leaders, he has gone first, and he has shown a way that we can trust. Okay, so here we are. We want to be leaders, and we want to develop leaders. The first thing that has to be going on, this process demonstrates it, but the first thing that has to go on is that you have to be part of a discipling culture, okay? Because that is what you're leading people to do, okay? Now, by a discipling culture, and I'm taking some of this terminology from Mike Breen's book on multiplying missional leaders, okay? And so that's why I want to help you with some of this terminology, not because it's so systematic or so black and white, but because these words help you understand what you are supposed to be about. It'll help you identify, am I doing it or am I not doing it, okay? So the first thing that has to be going on is a discipling culture. If that is not developed where you are at, that needs to happen first. You need to be discipling. And by discipling, we mean informing, imitating, and innovating, okay? Informing means you're preaching the gospel. You're teaching the gospel. You're living the gospel. You are connecting with people, okay? Individually as a body. Second, you are imitating. That means that what you are doing is imitatable. That means your life and your doctrine match. It means that you connect to people and you apprentice them or mentor them, or they're following what you're doing, okay? And third, innovative. That means that you show them such a passionate, truth-giving way to their life that now their life takes on meaning with this. It's not just a sales pitch that you've taught them and that they repeat, okay? Now it is coming out of their hearts and out of their minds and out of their mouths as their story, but it's the gospel, okay? And so that's what those three things, and when those are going on, then you're ready to develop leaders, okay? Okay, let's go on one more. Okay, back one. Okay, so now you're ready to develop leaders. So we're going to look at these 4 terms for getting through the process that will help you know, am I doing it or not? You will still go through the school of hard knocks. You will still make mistakes. You will still have people who will start it and not finish it, okay? But you will know that you are involved in a process that is godly, that Jesus has prescribed himself, and that you can continue to follow even when your eyes don't see what is happening, okay? So the process is recruit, train, deploy, and review. So I'm going to start with recruit, and Lynn's going to he'll take over at train. These are the 2 main ones that we want to discuss in depth, and then we'll kind of quickly go over deploy and review for you so you'll know what those mean. Okay, so to be able to recruit leaders, you have to know what you're looking for, okay? So the first filter for recruiting is character, okay? Now, this one, like, in our minds, it makes the most sense. In our hearts, it's the hardest one to be consistent with. It's the hardest one to judge sometimes. So it involves some follow through here on these filters. Okay, I have some questions that we're gonna be able to give you and help you maybe evaluate whether or not you have found this out about a person that you're trying to develop. First of all, you've got to have the time and the testing that it takes to see a person's character. You're not going to find out in 5 minutes. You're not going to find out in a week or at first meeting. You're going to have to spend some time with them where you see how they react, okay? Does this person have the interior life needed by someone going to the missional frontier? Or at least do they desire to develop it, okay? You'll see a heart, a passion, a desire to be a leader. Do their life and doctrine, do they match, okay? Are they watching it? Do they want their life and doctrine to match, or do you always have to tell them, maybe what needs to be straightened out? Are they trustworthy? Do they do what they say they will do? That takes time to find that out, okay? It takes experiences to find out if they are following through or doing what they say, okay? Do they hear from God? And when they hear from God, do they respond in obedience? Are they looking at the Word of God? Are they looking at the truth of the message and responding to it? Or do they think it's for someone else and not for them? And do they follow through? One of our most familiar questions for this is, does he or she do the right thing when no one is watching? You've probably already heard that statement before. It's a good one, okay? It's a good one. But it's not only when no one is watching, it's also when we are watching. And so you're looking for what kind of a character this person has. Okay, now we would think, maybe you would think that this was all there was to it, okay? Once I find out he's a really good guy and he really, he wants to obey God and he was looking into leadership, but there's more to it. And this is probably the part where we start, I think that where we've dropped the ball maybe the more times than not. Okay, the second one is capacity. It's still on that same one. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of these other things shall be added unto you." Okay? Are they doing that? What does seeking first mean? And what does capacity mean? Capacity means, do they have time? Do they just say, oh, I want to be there, but then they can't squeeze it in? Is ministry their first love? Are they working on their other occupations in order to do ministry? Or is it, I'll do ministry when my job is not bothering me, okay? Where's the room in their life? Does that make sense? What does the room in their life for being a leader look like? Is there enough space? Are they physically healthy? Why would that matter? Why would being physically healthy have to do with your capacity? Okay. It's going to make a demand on your body as well as on your spirit and your emotions. And so if you're sick all the time, do you have availability? Okay. So there's things about your life that you have got to learn how to manage. Leadership does not happen by osmosis or just because, I want to be a leader, okay? It happens because you learn the skills of it. And these are the grown-up skills of being a leader. And this is what you're looking for in a person who you want to develop into a leader, okay? How does he or she react under stress when things get hard? That's a big one. And that takes time and testing. Okay, that kind of goes back a little bit to the character. Sorry. Can they increase their capacity when the situation demands it? When things get tough, do they just melt? Do they take it out on someone else and blame? Or do they rise up for the time and get the job done and then see to their physical, emotional needs maybe at a different time? Are they able to pull on their resources, okay? You have to live that too. You have to example that while they're learning it. So if capacity is something that you have not explored yet in your life, it's time to examine whether or not, you have pulled on your capacity. The statement is, you find out the capacity of a person's tank when it's empty, not when it's full, okay? When you're drained, when it got hard, when you're tired, when there's too much going on at one time. We used to take a mission trip every summer with our group, and we would travel from Florida to Oklahoma and run a camp for a week where we were the counselors, we were the activity directors, we were practically KP, and everything else. And it was from Sunday night until Friday morning. And these were urban city kids who had no concept of community or family or order. And so at the same time of all of those responsibilities, they had to build a relationship with these kids fast. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And so we found out what we were made out of. And every time we left, every year, we did it for 9 years, every year that we left, our people came away going, I didn't know I could do that. And they would go home, and they would achieve more things at home than they did the year before. And they would step into leadership roles that they hadn't stepped into before because we ran their capacity out and they found out what they were made of and they found out who they needed to rely on to get through. Let me tell you, they were on their face and their knees that week a lot because they thought they were going to die. They didn't, but they thought they were going to die, okay? So you find out a capacity of a person's tank when it is empty, not when it's full. Okay, the next one is chemistry. 1 Corinthians 9:19 says, Paul says, I became all things to all men so that, anybody can finish it? so that I might win some. Okay? Chemistry. What in the world does chemistry have to do with leadership? Okay? You have to be likable. You have to be able to get along with people. You have to give up your little bitty garbage stuff that does not matter and say, it's no big deal. I'll do what you want to do. I'll eat what you want to eat. I'll go where you want to go. It's no big thing for me. But a lot of us don't have that chemistry developed. And we're all about me. And we only want to do what we want to do. So here you are. You have like, okay, I have learned how to die to self. But now I'm teaching someone else how to die to self. And it's like, they're like, no, it's about me. I'm tired and I don't like them and blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is a training moment. This is when the rubber meets the road and you have to say, you have got to relate to people or you are not going to be a leader, okay? Are they good with people? Do you and others enjoy working with them? Okay? It's a terrible thing to have to work with someone that you can't stand, okay? But helping a person understand their chemistry is going to make you like them better, and it's going to make others like them better. And then they're going to achieve things that they've never achieved before, and they're going to like themselves better in that process, okay? And it's integral to leading others to Christ, to leading others into being better disciples. Can you communicate and take shortcuts with this person in the middle of conflict? Okay? That's a chemistry thing. If I have to stand and have an argument or a debate and explain things 10 different ways for them to understand we're not getting on with the business, okay? Chemistry is, I'm going to work with you. Their attitude is, I'm going to work with you because I trust you. You're training me to be a leader. Let's go. I'll do what you say, and we'll ask questions later. Okay, this is a part of chemistry, of likability, of amiability. Do you want to go to battle with this person and be down in the trenches with him or her when the pressure is on? Let me say that again. Do you want to go to battle with this person and be down in the trenches with him or her when the pressure is on? Okay? That is a key to being a leader and helping a person understand that we can't stop in the middle of a battle for someone's soul to make you feel better. And so you are training them to become that person who's saying, I'll keep going. I'll keep going. Because the goal is to win some, okay? The fourth one for character is the calling. In Ephesians 4, it talks about that Christ called those to lead in many different forms, but those to lead to be able to equip and connect and prepare God's people, okay? So that is the purpose of the calling, but that word has become very ambiguous these days, and so some of us think, oh, I want to be a campus minister. That's a desire, but it may not be a calling. And you want a person who is called into what they're doing, because that's going to be their motivation to stay in the hard times and to become a leader even when you're not there. Remember how Jesus said, wait for the power, and then he left this earth, and they started the church. Okay, so you're equipping someone to literally do it when you're not around. 2 Corinthians 5:14 says, Christ's love compels us. That should be the reason. That should be the calling. You telling them is not the reason. Them thinking it up on their own is not the reason that they're called. This is what my dad did. This is what my cousin did. Okay, those aren't reasons. That's not what we call calling. Okay, but Christ died for me. I can't not. Double negative. I can't not win others. Okay. Now you're looking at something different, and that's what you want to be listening for. Lots of people say they would like to do that. They think they would like to do that. You want to know why. You want to know why. And one of the litmus tests that you can find out is, what is their motivation in this calling? And one of the ways to test that is to challenge them on. Express some reservations. I'm not sure if this is a calling. Can you help me understand this? And sometimes people who aren't called don't react well to that at all. And that's a sign for you that maybe this isn't a calling yet. I'm not the judge of callings. I don't tell a person what they can or cannot do. But if I'm developing a leader, I'm seeing that as a weak spot. Because when it gets hard or when it doesn't go their way, it's all of a sudden it's not a calling. What do you think an unbeliever thinks of a person who makes a lot of noise about I'm called and then wimps out when the going gets tough? They're like, yeah, this is fake. And so this is why it's very important to help a person work through what those words mean and what they will mean to them in their lives. Okay, now the second filter that I'm going to take you through is competency. Competency, if I could say it. Okay, 2 Corinthians 3:5 says our competency does not come from us. It comes from the Lord. So the kind of competency we are looking for is the Lord's competency. But once again, he does not, this does not come about by osmosis, okay? This comes about by a skill set, by learning different things that are needed, that are necessary in ministry. And so without them, a person is lacking, okay? The first one is readiness. Colossians 3:23 says, in everything you do it with all of your heart. Everything for the Lord, do it with all your heart, okay? So we're talking about a skill that's coming from deep inside, or a desire for the skill that's coming from deep inside you. So these are skills like communicating. You have to talk to people. We have a lot of people that in our ministry that don't like to use their words. And we have to tell them to talk. That's a skill. And we have a lot of people who have learned how to use their words. We have a lot of people that use their words way too much and have nothing to say, okay? So communicating is a very, very important skill, and it takes development, and that's okay. Leading communities, okay? You can't just be a mano a mano. You've got to want to be with people. You have got to be able to direct people. Coaching, that's going to include admonishment. That's going to correcting, equipping, teaching, loving, relationship, mentoring. It's going to mean, can you do these things? And connecting, okay? Get to a deeper level. They can trust you. You are trustworthy, okay? These are things that you're looking at a person that you are developing, okay? Relationship to core, okay? A lot of you from crossings are on the plants, okay? You've moved with a core of people, okay? What's it like when that core clashes or has issues all the time or doesn't like each other, has no chemistry? What's that like? It's detrimental to the mission, okay? And so these are skills that are in the building or evaluating process, okay? A person does, this is probably, like Jesus picked his 12. He knew who they were. He wasn't deluded as to their limitations, but he also saw their potential. And so he knew what skills he needed to teach, okay? And he went to work with it, and he spent time with them, and he taught them those skills. They talked about them. Do you realize how much they talked while they walked? We're in such a fast pace, we have to take a road trip out of town just to have time to talk to each other. But Jesus talked with his people all the time, all day long, because they walked everywhere they went. That's extremely important in leadership development. The second one is availability, okay? 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. We always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that his life may also be revealed in our mortal body. So then death is at work in us, but life is at work in you." Okay? This is the process of availability, of taking the skill set that readiness has taken us through and now coping. This is probably, in my opinion, this is like one of our weakest areas in humanness in this generation, is our coping skills are so low. And we just at the least little thing. And learning how to develop your coping skill is one of the sweetest gifts that a mentor could ever give you. When a mentor comes up to you and says, "Buck up," get over yourself, come on, let's go, he's helping you. He's helping you. He's saying to you, you can do this. And it's going to be better when you learn that you can. And what you are flipping out about is not the important thing. And there's many more hard things that are ahead of you. And I don't want you to buckle when the least little thing happens. I want you to be strong. And so availability now becomes looking at a person's life, a leader that you're trying to develop, and how are they managing even their geography, their location, okay, what it takes for them to get to the events, to be at events, it's very, very practical, is what I'm trying to say. Time management, huge, okay? Being on time, managing your time, doing multiple things at one time, these are all skills. And if you are a leader, developing a leader, then that is something you are working on your person with, okay? If you are a leader and you haven't developed those skills yet, you better get on it, because time management is huge, because it says I'm reliable. It says I do what I say I'm going to do. It takes you back to character, to where I can manage. I'm managing. It's the Lord who's giving me this competence, remember, okay? But you can do all things through Jesus Christ, okay, who gives you strength. And so getting responsible, taking care of things in the time that it's there for you to take care of, these are skills that will enhance you as a leader, enhance your people as they become leaders. Family responsibilities. Everyone's at a different spot. They have different loads to bear. They have different dynamics going on in their family. That doesn't preclude that you can't be a leader. What would happen to the church if just because we got our hands full, we had to quit the mission? So how do I learn how to juggle family responsibilities? Maybe you think, well, when I'm out of campus, then, I won't have to do this anymore because I'll have children and blah, blah, blah. And thankfully, in a lot of our churches, that's not what we're seeing, okay? You're seeing people example and live how to manage both, okay? But that's a huge skill that needs to be developed. Financial commitment. If you're not managing your money, you can't handle the needs, you're not taking care of yourself. How can you be taking care of someone else? Okay? All these things make sense, but what we need to know is that when we are not working on them or when we're not trying to improve upon them, we are not helping other people learn how to be leaders, okay? And then if we are not addressing that with the people that we are trying to develop, then they are not keeping on with the process themselves. Career path, health, we're into a different phase in our ministry where everyone in it, and I think Crossings experiences this too, everyone has another job. We have like little amount of people on staff. And so everyone is juggling a 40-hour job and ministry. And it's hard, okay? But it's a skill. And we're learning how to do it. And we're learning how to do it together. And we're finding out that we're not falling apart. And we find out that there's some people that can be there different times, and we're working together as a team. These are skills. So are you increasing in scope, in coping? And are the people that you are trying to develop, are they increasing in their coping skills? Okay, the third filter, my last filter, is to be strategic. And this one has to do with learning how to lead large groups of people. The reason for that is that, as you've probably all heard Robert say many times, if you want to get larger, you've got to get smaller. So we need leaders to be able to take a hold of other groups. They don't have to we're not just always one-on-one. We're taking, the women are taking the women, the small groups they're growing, whatever, and they're multiplying. And to be able to be skilled at leading a large group is very, very important in this process. And so one of the pieces of advice was to look strategically at your body and try to single out people who have a propensity to lead groups of, let's say, over 50. And one of the examples that it shared was there was a story that was taken from a Korean prison camp back in the war, prisoner of war camp. And what the authorities did there was they got up into the guard towers or somewhere where they could observe all of the prisoners that were in the camp, but not be seen, so that they were known that they were being watched. And so as they watched what the group out on the grounds, the prisoners all on the outside grounds would do, is little by little, groups of people would gravitate to a person. Maybe 2 or 3 in a large camp, but anyway, they would see these pockets develop where one person became the central figure in a larger group of people. And so as they saw that happen over the grounds there, then they came down and they took those people out. And they took them to another place. Because they knew, this is the opposite effect, but they knew that if those people had a leader, that those people could accomplish something. And if they plucked that leader out, then the people who were not prone to lead large groups would then kind of just dissipate and not have any momentum, okay? We want to look at that from the opposite way, okay? As you look for leaders to develop, look for that person. I call them a Pied Piper. That's my name for them. And I can spot them in our group. I'm like, okay, they've got skills that need developing, but look at what's happening. So let's get them on board and let's get them grounded in the information that Jesus has given us. Wow, what can happen then, okay? There's nothing that they wouldn't be able to do, okay? And that's not everyone, and it's okay that you might not be that person, but it's good to have those in your group. It helps strengthen your group. Okay, now we're going to go from recruiting to training.
Now I get my turn.
Now you get your turn.
And then a lot of times.
Sorry, it's over.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay, I'm going to go through mine a little bit faster than she went through just because of time. But this is the area that I wanted to take time on because All this other stuff she talked about, that to me is what other people do. They identify them. They see if they got these strengths, these weaknesses. They go through all of this, and then I come into the picture and say, okay, now it's time to train them. Now it's time to take them from what they've said. Okay, this person can learn. Okay, let's find out. Some of you know that I train amateur and professional fighters. And one of the things that's sometimes humorous is when a person comes into the gym for the first time. That's not always true, but a lot of times they come in, and they're coming in to be fighters. We're not a workout gym where you're coming in to get in shape. It's not CrossFit. It's not, they're coming in to learn how to fight. They're going to get in the ring someday and try to fight somebody. So when they come in, often there will be some that come in and they think they already know everything. I mean, we've had them come in. We've got a world champion in our gym, and we've had people come in who's never had a fight in their life. They've been to a few gyms here and there and done a little bit of training, and they'll come in wanting to spar the world champion. It is mind-boggling to me why you would want to crawl in the ring with a world champion, especially a heavyweight, and you're not a heavyweight. It's just mind-boggling to me that you would even want to do that. But so first, when they come into the gym, the first thing we kind of do is we are going to teach them what they don't know, because they don't know what they don't know, which is the first step that we're going to talk about. I do, you watch. It's unconscious incompetence. I don't know what I don't know. So we'll bring them into the gym. We'll go through the warm-up drills. We'll take a little bit of time in some of the basic drills to see if they have any basics at all, what they developed wrong that needs to be broken and fixed, and all of that kind of stuff. And if they continue on their quest to want to spar one of the pros, to want to spar the world champion, we're slowly taking them forward in the process. We'll put them on a heavy bag and run full 6-minute clock on them just to see if they could even breathe after 6 minutes, things like that. But when they just continue and continue and continue and continue, that they know what they're doing and they want to spar Randy Boom Boom Blake, well, we put them in the ring with Randy Boom Boom Blake. About 30 seconds later, they're crawling, I don't say that literally, crawling out of the ring because nobody wants to be in the ring with Randy Boom Boom Blake more than 30 seconds. In his last few fights, even the pro fighters that fought him didn't want to be in there longer than 30 seconds. I tell you that to tell you this is pretty normal. This first process is to take people from what they don't know and teach them they don't know. Because I cannot train someone to be a leader until they recognize they're not a leader yet. And it takes a process to get them there. Sometimes it's a breaking process. Sometimes it's an aha moment, Oh, I guess I just figured out. I don't know what. So the way to do that is that they'll go with you and they'll watch you do what you do. Whether it's an event you're doing. You guys do a root beer kegger. You're going out to a root beer kegger, and you take them with you, and everything you do, they're watching. They're not helping, maybe in some minimal way, but mostly they're watching what you do. And then after the event, the next important step you take them to is you debrief it. You sit down and say, okay, what did you see? What did you see me doing? What questions do you have about what you saw me doing? And that's where you're going to find out things. They saw this, and they said, well, I can do that, so really, you can do that. How can you do that? And they start telling you how they would do it, which is different than you do it. And the reason you do it the way you do it is because you know it works, because you're experienced at it. So it's a process. It's a process of them watching you do what you do. The next step, once they've done that for a while, I am going to push through this because we're almost out of time. I guess actually we are, aren't we?
You're okay.
The next step is I do and you help. So after you've done the first one for a while, you bring them along, you continue doing it, but now they're helping you as you're doing it. This moves them into the conscious incompetence. I know what I don't know now. But you don't move them to that step until that's what they realize. I know what I don't know now. So as they're there, things begin to change as they're watching you do what you do. They're beginning to help you as you're doing it. They're beginning to get some understanding of it. Bruce Lee said one time a statement in martial arts that that has stuck for years over people learning kind of sticks to this process. He said, when I first started karate, I thought a punch was just a punch and a kick was just a kick. As I developed in the martial arts, I realized a punch was not just a punch and a kick was not just a kick. As I became proficient and came to black belt, I realized the punch really was just a punch and a kick really was just a kick. Think that through and you'll begin to understand it because it fits right into this process. At the beginning of it, they don't know what they don't know. Here they've moved to I know what I don't know. Now when you do the debriefing after they've gone to the event with you and they've helped you with it, now they've got different questions. Their questions aren't so arrogant. Their questions aren't so, you did it this way, but I would do it that way. They're going in going, I saw you do this. Why did you do it that way? They really want to know why because they know they don't know. See the difference? The third step is, after you've done that enough times, you do and I help. We call this conscious competence. I kind of know what to do, but I need your help. I kind of know what to do. I'm going to go to the event with you, and I kind of know what to do, but don't leave me out there by myself because I might make a mistake because I'm not really sure I know completely what to do. I need your help in it. You go through that process, and then the debriefing after that process is even the same. Now they're really asking deep questions of what did I do? How did I do it? Did I do it different than you do it? I did this a little bit differently, but is that okay? And they're really wanting to learn. And the last step, you allow them to do, and you watch. They're out there on their own now. They're just being watched. This is unconscious competence. I know what to do. I have learned at this point. The debriefing process after that one is completely different than all of the rest of them. It's almost like it's gone back to the arrogance point, but in reality, it's not really arrogance. In reality, they've now moved into a point of competence. They've moved into a point they really do know what they're doing, but the only reason they know what they're doing is because they went through the steps. They went through the steps of I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. Now you do, and I watch. The debriefing that happens from that one now changes into the next step for you is to identify someone, and you take them with you, and you do, and they watch. And then you just continue to repeat the process. This is something you should learn because if you're planning on being a leader, because leaders develop leaders. Let that sink in. You're not going to be a leader if you're a leader not developing leaders. If you're a leader not developing leaders, that's an oxymoron. You're not a leader because leaders develop leaders. That's how this process continues, and this process continues on. We're going to finish with this, right?
You are.
I'm not.
Okay, so just the term deploy for you, that is to plan, account, and act. That means that you're in the fire. That means you're out there. That means you are involved in an event or a Bible study or a worship. It doesn't matter. It means you are in action. Okay, you have been deployed. All right. You're going to experience. You can do the deployment at all of these levels, like he just described of the square. Okay, because even if you're watching only, you are deployed. So you've got to get out there to experience it. You're not going to just theorize what this is going to look like and then just go off by yourself and have it work. We've tried it. It doesn't work that way. Being in it and watching it happen and experiencing all of those things together is what makes you learn, and it has to take place.
The only way your ministries are going to grow is to take this process the process that we just put you through before, the I do, you watch, that process. The only way your ministry is going to grow is to take people and put them through that process. And the biggest mistake, can you back up that slide for me? The biggest mistake you can make, and the biggest mistake I see made all the time, is to try to skip processes. Mm-hmm. no matter how good of a person you've got with you and you are training, no matter how good you think they are, if you skip one of those steps, you're going to fail in developing them as a leader. What you're going to develop as a leader instead is an arrogant person that really doesn't know what they're doing, and Randy's going to knock them out in 30 seconds. That's what's going to happen. Because there is a champ out there fighting us. His name ain't Randy, but it is Satan.
And if you love the people that you are trying to develop, then you want success for them. You want to set them up for success. And so it's not that mistakes can't be made, because we are living proof of that. But it is that you are learning how to make it better and better, and that you see the process taking place. That's what the pipeline picture is for. It's going through and then repeating again. That process has to, it's not perfect. It's not as analytical as maybe we described it or I described it, but it has to go on. If you want your people to come through on the other side and be ready and be competent and be successful, and them to bring others to Christ and to bring others that come to Christ into leadership, so that they bring others into Christ, and then they bring those people into leadership, and that it just keeps repeating. And that is what we get to be involved in. It's such an exciting process. It's one of the reasons that that we have longevity in what we're doing. It's not because we know how to do it all. It's because we can't not do it. We can't stop doing it. Because when you see a person's life go from chaos to order, let's do that again. Why would we quit? And so we're not trying to recommend some super systematic way, but we're trying to give terms and legs to what it is you're doing, instead of just haphazard and then get discouraged because I can't develop